Good evening and welcome to the July 28, 2022 meeting of the Yorktown Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Gordon Fine. I chair the board. Joining me tonight is Bill Gregory, John Meistrick, our recording secretary Glenda Daly, our legal assistant Kira Bruna, and our assistant building inspectors Steve Frietta. First thing I'm going to tell everybody is since we only have 3 members here tonight, that's what constitutes a minimum quorum, which means that any application we vote on tonight, in order to be granted, has to be by unanimous vote. So if any one or more members of the board votes against it, then it's automatically denied. So it has to be unanimous in order to be granted tonight because there's only 3 of us here. So if any applicant wants to adjourn based upon that, they're free to do so. I'll just give you the proviso that our next meeting is not till September. We don't have an August meeting. That being said, the first thing we need to do is set up next month's, the September meeting. The September meeting is here in the boardroom on September 22nd at 6:30. To do mailings, they must be sent out between August 29th and September 7th. Be advised that if you send them out before August 29th or after September 7th, we will not be able to open your hearing at the next meeting. You have to post a sign conspicuously on your property and bring with you a copy of the picture of the sign on the property along with the affidavit that the sign was posted properly. If we have to do a site visit on your property, site visits are being done Saturday, September 17th. We start around 9 a.m. at the southern end of town and work our way north. You don't necessarily have to be home for us to do a site visit, but if it's something that's not obvious from us looking at the house, like you're putting an addition but we can't tell where it's going to be, you just want to flag it out, so if you're not going to be there, we can tell what you're doing on the property. The next order of business is to go over how you have to do the mailings. To do the mailings, you go to the tax office here in Town Hall, tell them you're sending out zoning board application notifications, tell them your address. They will then show you a book showing the names and addresses of those parties you have to notify. Write those names and addresses down on the notification sheet that you're given in your packet. You then must send out those mailings between those dates by first-class mail. They do not have to be sent out by certified mail. Only first-class mail with a certificate of mailing, which is just a slip from the post office that certifies that it was sent on a specific date to a specific person. Those only cost about $1 each as opposed to around $6 each. So it's a lot quicker and a lot cheaper, and you don't have to reply. You don't have to wait for anybody to reply to it. It's just assumed to be received by the recipient with that certificate. Okay. That being said, we're going to next approve the minutes from last month's meeting. I received one minor change to the minutes from Mr. Gregory in one of the applications. We'll make that correction. That's on the Sansone application. It was just a mistake in one of the words, said 57 feet instead of 36 feet. With that change being made, do I have a second to approve the minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Going on to new business. These people are generally not here, but if you're here, you can step up. Yorktown Office Warehouse. Application to renew existing special use permit for a daycare facility at 2985 Navajo Street. We'll handle that administratively, refer to the building department, and public hearing in September. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Biebel. Application renewal of special use permit for an accessory apartment at 1331 Echo Hills Path. We'll handle that administratively, refer that to the building department, and public hearing on September 22nd. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Tornatori. Application will allow a front yard setback of 18.256 feet where 30 feet is required. 1049 East Main Street. Set that down for a site visit, public hearing, and refer to the building inspector. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ali Hadraj. Want to step up, please?
Yes, sir.
Application to legalize a shed with a side yard setback of 3.5 feet where 10 is required at 830 Barberry Road. Good evening, sir. You should come up to the microphone. Did you understand the process of what you have to do with the mailings and the sign?
Yes, I do.
All right, so we can set it down for a site visit, refer to the building department, and a public hearing in September. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Rodriguez, come on up, please. Application to allow a floor area of 1,300 square feet where 800 square feet is the maximum allowed for an accessory apartment at 898 Parkway Place. Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Now, you have an application already pending, correct?
It was,
For the special use permit.
yes.
So you can't get one without the other, right?
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll call that one now, because you can't go forward with it anyway at this point. So that's Rodriguez on the adjourned agenda, application for special use permit for a new accessory apartment, 898 Parkway Place.
And just adjourn it.
Yeah. So that one we're going to adjourn to September. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And on your new one, we'll set it down for a site visit, public hearing, and refer it to the building department. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennings. Application to allow construction of an attached garage with a side yard setback of 8.5 feet where 15 is required, where a total of two sides is 22.3 feet where 40 is required, and a front yard setback of 35.09 feet where 40 is required, 79 Summerston Road. We'll set that down for site visit, refer it to the building department, and public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Williams. Application for an addition with a rear yard setback of 21.69 feet where 30 is required at 2086 Defoe Court. We'll set that down for a site visit, public hearing, and refer it to the building department. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Savastano. Application for a raised second story of a non-conforming structure with a front yard setback of 22 feet where 75 is required, and a lot area of 15,000 square feet where 80,000 is required at 950 Starlight Road. Set that down for site visit, refer it to the building department, and public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Deneen Carey. Application to allow 18 square foot wall sign on the side of a building where 4 square feet is allowed at 2090 Crampon Road. We'll refer that to ABACA, Building Department, and Planning, and we'll set it down for site visit and public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
O'Donnell. Application to allow a 6-foot 6-inch fence located in the front yard where 4.5 feet is permitted at 1405 Tourist Lane. Set that down for site visit, refer it to the building department, and public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on. Carvalho. Application to subdivide a lot creating two lots under required 10,000 square feet or minimum of 20,000 is required at 1681 Summit Street. Good evening, Mr. Grace.
Good evening. All right, so Cavallo, Grace, Clifford, which should be Gifford, and Wallach are all going to be adjourned.
We keep saying Clifford, it's Gifford, right?
It's Gifford, yeah.
Okay,
That's
so-
okay. It shows up earlier on the application.
So Carvalho, we're going to adjourn
Yeah.
applicant's request. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Grace, application to allow caretaker's cottage at 959 Hanover Street. We're going to adjourn at applicant's request. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And Gifford, application to allow subdivision of existing single-family lot into two non-conforming lots at 1625 Central Street. We're going to adjourn at applicant's request. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And Wallach is the same. On that one, I'm going to renotice it if it comes back at all.
Okay, Wallach is an application to allow construction of a new barn accessory building with a height of 30 feet 2 inches where 15 is allowed at 1549 Jacob Road. So we're going
Yeah,
to
he's-
adjourn that also.
Well, he said he's going to renotice
He's
it.
going to,
Get off the agenda.
he's
Well, for
going
now,
to,
we'll adjourn it, so we'll see. what-
it's going to be adjourned, but when it does come back up, I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
The month
Oh, if
before.
we just knock it off the agenda, you got to pay for it again all over.
No, I don't want to do that, but it's going to be, I'll renotice it,
Yeah,
because it's
so
going to
leave
be
it
a
on
long
running on the
adjournment.
agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
And Rodriguez, which is 898 Parkway, we just did. Okay.
Tamburello, I guess, request.
Oh, yeah, I missed that one. That's been adjourned, too.
At the request of the applicant.
Tamburello, application special use permit for a new accessory apartment at 3061 Oak Street is being adjourned at the applicant's request. So I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public hearings. Deneen Carey? Were you here when I did your one on the new business? Sorry. That's all right. We'll just adjourn. We'll just put it on the agenda for September.
Great.
This is application new special use permit for the daycare facility at 2090 Crampon Road. You want to pull the file for me? Sure. Good evening.
Hello.
Your names for the record, please.
Kathleen Deneen Carey.
Minnie Deneen Carey.
Okay, and this is just a renewal, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Any changes since the last application?
Big changes.
Okay, why don't you tell us what they are?
That's the exact same site plan that you guys approved, I believe it was 3.5 years ago. The addition on the back of the building, it's finally finished. I hope you drove by and see it.
We
I think
have?
It's pretty good. So it's now all done, so this is just the renewal of our regular special use permit, but
Did you increase the number of students
Yes, we did.
to what?
We
No.
went from 66 to 120.
And your previous permit allowed for what?
66.
Do you want to move to 120?
Yes, please.
125.
Oh, 125.
125, sorry.
That's based upon the addition?
Didn't we approve all of that with the addition?
Yes.
I don't think the number, though, because
Not
No,
the number.
No, that was,
Yeah, the old
That
permit
was
was
it.
yes.
66.
And that was with the fire marshal's approval. They've all been in to inspect. It was the 125 number.
Okay.
And all of that was part of the issuance of the CO.
Yes.
Anyone in the audience have a comment on the application? Okay. We have a memo from the building department dated July 21st. No violations were found. Building department has no objections. So based upon what we've heard, I would move that we grant the application to renew a special use permit for the daycare facility at 2090 Crumpod Road, increasing the maximum number of students to 125 for a period of 3 years. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much. See you next month for the sign.
September, not next month.
September, that's right. I remember.
Lachterman, come on up. Application for special use permit for the parking of a commercial vehicle in a residential area at 201 Montrose Road. Good evening, Mr. Grace.
Good evening, everyone. I'm assuming you do have the survey with the proposed enclosure.
With the enclosure?
Yeah, he's building a pole barn in the back.
Did we
Which,
do- So the mailings have been,
yeah.
Mailings were received. Yeah.
So this, you want to just run us through what it is, what you're looking for?
Yeah, he's got a, you probably may have seen it around town,
No, we saw it on the driveway.
ice cream emergency. It's actually a pretty cool thing. It's a modified large
It's like
bus.
a conversion van or bus.
Yeah, conversion van, right? And it's a mobile ice cream parlor, and it's actually it's very cool. You go inside there, it looks like an old ice cream parlor, black and white tile floor, and got the music going and everything else. Anyhow, so what happens is you uses it for events. So it's not as an ice cream truck where you pay per serving or per cone. What you do is you actually you rent him or the ice cream emergency truck for your events. So there's corporate events, there's birthday parties, whatever. And he comes there, and there's a certain set price, and he serves 1 scoop, 2 scoops, Sundays, or whatever else. So it's
Obviously, it's not being done on his property. It's just mobile.
no.
He's just storing it there.
It's actually a pretty cool idea, and it's a new franchise of which he's on the ground floor with. So he has this. I think it's almost 26 foot bus or conversion bus.
It's a good size. It's
Yeah.
a good size vehicle.
So to preserve it, he's going to actually build a pole barn in the back.
Does the pole barn require a variance?
I don't believe it does. There's a question of whether it needs a 10-foot or a 20-foot rear yard setback. So I think he's providing 20. And we have the Wickowitz rule or whatever it was, the Bianco rule.
The survey that I'm staring at
Yeah.
doesn't have this pole barn located on it.
it's up on this.
It's on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right here.
That's the pole barn?
I think this is the barn.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So normally the plot plan's supposed to have a distance to the property lines. I don't see any of that. Don't make it easy for us. But
Well, if you looked, is it his property butts a paper road?
Yeah.
Which is the terminus of Summit Street, and that is being abandoned by the town. Basically, essentially, it was never taken by the town. It terminates at somebody's rear yard, and the legal right over it really goes halfway to the center line thereof goes half to Mr. Lachman and the other half to Mr. Schmidt on the other side of the right of way. So we're asking, since there's going to be a permanent structure, either straddling or within that old right-of-way that we've asked the town to officially abandon their right of acceptance.
And they haven't yet done that, but
No, but we did have a public hearing on that, and what we have to do is we provide them with a title report showing that my client actually owns it. So they're selling us nothing. They're selling us the Brooklyn Bridge essentially.
When is the pole barn supposed to be constructed?
As soon as we can clear the issue with the town as to.
Because normally when we do these commercial vehicle permits, we'd like to see how it's going to be shielded from the neighborhood. So sometimes we see a plantings plan, or
Yeah.
in this case, you're putting up a pole barn, but we don't actually see the pole barn on the property. So
Yeah,
we don't know
and
how concealed it's going to be.
I mean, the issue is that the final design probably hasn't been done yet because we're still finalizing the
Right.
issue with the town. But if the bond were up there, I don't think we would need. Would we need actually a special use permit even if it was inside storage?
yes,
Yeah,
the ordinance basically covers both exterior
And
and
interior, yeah. Okay.
interior storage of a
Yeah.
commercial
So,
vehicle.
so
So that's
the problem logistically is, even if we said tonight, okay, it's granted on the condition that it's stored in the pole barn, what happens if you can't get the pole barn built because of what's going on with the town?
The understood because the chicken the egg.
Right.
But at this point, we have had a public hearing on the road issue, and the thing is, it's actually just so everybody understands and tried to make it clear even at the public hearing. It's more this belt and suspenders approach to it. The town doesn't own it, so it's almost like a courtesy to them that quite frankly, what happens is it is a portion of a road that was on a filed map, and it becomes an irrevocable offer of dedication to the town, which they can accept at any time,
yeah.
or either by affirmative action or by resolution. And by affirmative action, I mean by actually improving the roadway. The roadway that abandoned spur has been taken care of both by Mr. Lachterman and the next door neighbor for decades. And it's on, and the idea is that before you invest in putting a permanent structure within that pathway, you want to make sure that you got everything cleared up. And so that, as a courtesy, that's what we're doing with
But
the town.
the other problem is that, for argument's sake, if it was granted and we said, all right, we'll grant it, but it has to be stored in the pole barn, the pole barn isn't built yet.
Right.
Once we make the decision and says, all right, it's granted, but it has to be in the pole barn, if it's not in the pole barn as of the date of the decision, he's in violation.
Okay. I mean, the simple solution is just adjourning it until we catch up to you.
Correct.
And that's what we'll do.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm driving at.
The other thing they just want to be aware of is that the pole barn is an accessory structure,
Yeah.
and basically you've had a height limit to that. So you just want to be aware.
Yeah, it's that 15 foot at the.
Only because of the fact that physically that thing has to fit in there.
Yeah, I know.
So just be aware of that when
yeah.
you're designing it, and if we need to look at that at some point, that's another issue we'll have to deal with.
Yeah, I've got a sense that we probably will be back because
Yeah.
I think he's making it 30 foot wide, so to get a 15-foot height,
Yeah,
you're probably going to have
it may
you're
be
probably going to end up,
problematic.
to get the pitch right, you're probably going to be a couple of feet.
So what we'll do is, anybody in the audience have a comment on the application? Kira, I don't see a building department memo in the file.
think somebody has.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't want to see if you have the building memo, too. Oh, you're there. Yeah.
Actually, I did go by there, but I had some other information that this was.
Why don't you step up and tell us who you are so everybody knows.
Steve Freyette, Assistant Building Inspector for the Town of Yorktown. I did go by there and take a look at this, but I had other information that this was going to get adjourned, and I wasn't. That's why I didn't send any comments in. For you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was.
It is now.
It is now. So I'll hold my comments till the next one.
All
I
right.
guess. Okay.
But yes,
Okay.
Yeah, we
I didn't realize because I was on the assumption that it was going to
Yeah,
be
no,
adjourned.
we knew that we
Otherwise,
weren't going
I
to be
would've said
fully.
Someone in the back want to say something? You got to come up, though. If you want to make comments, you got to come up to the microphone. Just please give us your name, sir.
Hi, good evening. I'm Michael Epting from Allen Avenue. I'm not a neighbor of the site, but I do object to a variance that would allow
A variance, it's a permit.
a permit for a commercial vehicle in a residential area. I live across from a man who would dearly like to park a large truck in his driveway, and because of that requirement, he's not permitted to do that. So I would not appreciate the precedent if you would.
Well, it's not a precedent. The town specifically has a permitting law on the
Okay.
books allowing for it if they meet certain requirements and our approval. So it is permitted with the permit. That's not a variance.
Okay.
Primarily screening.
And,
Which is
and
why we're
that's-
talking about
and
the
that's
pole barn.
basically why we're talking about putting it in the back in the pole barn.
Okay, that would be my, that was my issue, that if you approve this, then it could be,
There are
We-
plenty of
we-
commercial
yeah.
vehicles parked all over town that have permits, so
Okay.
it is
Yeah.
allowed if
And
you meet the requirements.
if someone tries to put it right in their front driveway and there's no screening, there's no trees, we
Right,
have
right.
denied those in the past.
okay,
See, that's why we're asking him to show us the pole barns. We know how it's going to be screened.
right, right,
Yeah, so it's permitted
Okay.
use with the permit.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, then I would move that we adjourn this application to September. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I appreciate your time, guys.
Nothing else on tonight, right?
No, I'm getting out of here.
Here you go. Nelson? Application for special use permit to convert an existing garage into an accessory apartment at 3481 Wildwood Street. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Your name?
Damian Nelson.
So let's pull your file out. While we're doing that, why don't you just run us through your application?
Sure. So we're utilizing an existing garage space, which was never really designed to be a garage in this home. It already has a certificate of occupancy. It was being utilized as a business office in the home.
Just to be clear, there is no garage door on it right
No,
now.
no,
We went through the
no
site visit.
standard doors
Yeah.
to go in and out. And our mother-in-law is here with me tonight. I'm needing to, slow down a little bit and be closer to home.
Just here to make sure?
Yes. Just to make sure. So we're looking forward to getting her settled closer to us.
I went over there earlier. That's why I was late.
Okay. Let's see what we got. So you're putting in one accessory apartment, correct?
Yes.
And where's the parking for that going to be?
We already have existing parking on.
For how many cars?
Typically, you can get about 4 cars in our driveway. It's a pretty large driveway, oversized.
And there's going to be a separate entrance for the accessory?
Yes.
We have a memo from the building department dated July 21st. They have no objection. We do have a letter dated July 17th. Expressing objection to the accessory apartment. As a homeowner, I am concerned that an apartment would change the character of the neighborhood. I purchased my home in 2006 and want to live with other single-family homeowners and renters. Yorktown offers its residents several choices for housing options: apartments, condos, rentals, and single-family dwellings. If someone wants to live in one of those areas, then they have the opportunity to purchase a place that makes sense for them. Second, there's nothing to prevent the homeowner from vacating the property and having 2 renters on the same property. This may create an absentee landlord situation. The lack of supervision with an absentee landlord is a concern. Further, I'm troubled by the possible parking issues it could create. I appreciate the need for extra income these days. I kind of condone that this special use permit as is an end run around the zoning laws. To grant the special use permit now allows amounts of bait and switch. I purchased my house in an area that was zoned for and changed to a sign of bad faith. And that's submitted by David Fritz. First off, to address a couple of issues in there, it's not an end run around the zoning law. The zoning law specifically permits accessory apartments if it meets the requirements. So it's in the law. Accessory apartments are only found in single-family dwellings, so it's not a change to that use either. The accessory apartment law is not a new law. It's created years ago in the town of Yorktown, primarily to create affordable housing. So it's not a change in use. It's not a change to a neighborhood because all neighborhoods in Yorktown basically have them. We just have to make sure that they meet the criteria. And one of the main criteria for accessory apartments is the main dwelling has to be owner-occupied, which then gives us, the town, hope that that person will be watching over their property and not going to be an absentee landlord. It's not a variance, it's a special use permit, meaning it's granted for a period of time. And if that is violated, if the terms are violated anyway, the permit can be taken away or not granted again at time of renewal. So I understand the person's concerns, but the law specifically permits that usage as long as it meets the right requirements. Anybody in the audience have other comments on the application? You want to step up, sir? Just state your name when you come up, please.
Good evening. Michael Daly. I live at 758 Wildwood Court, which is right around the corner. And all due respect to the owners of the property, this is the first time I'm hearing that it's actually for mother-in-law. I'm not sure you entirely need a special use permit here for an accessory dwelling.
Once you put a kitchen in,
If there's two kitchens, it's an accessory apartment.
Okay, but I know a lot of in-laws move in without that technicality. But my concern as a homeowner is we moved into an area, single-family homes. These are half-acre lots. We moved in for the character of the neighborhood. Once that is granted as a rental, there's nothing to keep mother-in-law there.
Mother-in-law doesn't have to be there. Once
Exactly
it's
my
but,
point.
But
Thank
accessory apartments are not just for relatives. It could be anybody.
Right.
And they're
But-
all over town.
Exactly, but not in this neighborhood yet.
How do you
All
know?
right? Well, I haven't seen any come up with the zoning board yet, and we'd
I
like
mean,
to
this
prevent
particular
the
house,
precedent.
as far as a change in neighbor, this particular house, and I'm not speaking for the applicant, I'm just talking about what's out there. This particular house, there's no garage there now.
That is
So
correct.
The way it looks is not going to change.
That is also correct. I'd also ask when you drive by, take a look at the number
did
of
drive by.
vehicles there. You'll also see the commercial vehicle parked there on occasion as well. If there are any more cars added, you've got an abundance of cars parked, and there is no parking on Wildwood right there. It may be legal.
Well,
but
there's
if
no
you've
parking
driven-
allowed on the streets during certain times of the year anyway.
That's correct. But even when it is allowed, that's on a blind curve. All right? We've already had accidents there. All you have to do is check
accessory
with
apartments
YPD for that.
are not allowed to use as the requirement for parking, street parking. It has to be self-contained.
Right, but you're creating the potential for an issue there. We've already got a problem with speeding on that curve. In fact, right in front of this very residence, Yorktown Police set up their radar unit, their portable radar unit, to try to slow down traffic. We've had Yorktown Police actually parking in some of the driveways with our permission in an effort to slow down the speeding and the running of the stop signs right at Wildwood Street and Wildwood Court. You start adding an accessory apartment there with the potential for someone parking on that curve, you're going to have an accident. All right, and
They could park on the street there now if they wanted to during the day, and there's nothing to prevent them.
nothing but common sense.
Correct, and that's the whole thing, is what I'm
Right.
saying.
So all I'm asking is maintain the character of the neighborhood. You heard from one other neighbor as well. Right now you're setting a precedent right
We're
there.
not setting a precedent. It's already there.
It's already
It's
there.
in the
and
law.
It's
not
in
a
the law,
precedent.
but not in that neighborhood yet.
well, we don't have an inventory in front of us of all the accessory apartments, but they are fairly common. We do 5 every meeting, so chances are in your neighborhood you have one. You just don't realize it.
I've been there 25 years, and I haven't seen one yet in that neighborhood. So I'm asking you to try to, the code is very clear.
The code is very clear that it's
Right.
permitted if they meet certain requirements.
Right.
It doesn't say you can't put one in if there isn't one there already.
But if you also read what the code, how it was written, could not be clearer. It states that the intent of the code is that neighborhoods zoned as single family, primary, maintain their single family character. And that's all we're asking to do.
And that's why they created this law the way they did.
Otherwise, it would be counterintuitive to say you could put an accessory apartment in, but you can't if it's a single-family dwelling.
Yeah, that's
Two
why they
opposite things.
That's why they created.
It sounds like a decision has been made, so I'll
Hasn't been
leave
made.
it
I'm
up
just
to
telling you
your-
that. I'm
We're
just
just
telling
on
you.
devices
I'm
then.
just going against telling you what your reasoning is, how it may be faulty in certain ways. That you're presuming things that aren't correct.
Well, I don't have to presume the number of accidents that have occurred. I don't have to assume the speeding is occurring. I see it. I would ask that you drive down there,
We have been.
sit, and just watch the traffic.
Speed.
I'm not sure the connection between an accessory apartment and people
Take a look in
speeding.
that driveway.
Well,
look
we're
at
going to
the
ask
people-
about. We're going to ask.
Take a look at the
people
commercial
many-
vehicle that's parked
All right,
there.
so we're gonna ask for
and then you tell me if
clarifications
there's
from the
sufficient
applicant
space.
on
If
that.
there were more cars added, you could answer that question yourselves. You just have to look. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Sir, you want to come back up? So how many cars do you have in the driveway now?
So today there are a total of 3 vehicles. One for myself, one for my wife, and one for Grandma. Grandma's
How many
staying
more
with
can
us.
fit without having to go on the street?
We could fit at least 2 more in the driveway with no issues. The commercial vehicle that the neighbor just made reference to is a church van that is parked from time to time. Whenever we go on a long trip, we usually park there so we can pack everything into the vehicle to
So it's not
travel.
stored there on any
It's
long-term
not stored
basis?
there. It's stored actually at the Grace Lutheran Church, and you can actually go there and you'll see it stationed at that location. At part-time, I pastor the Pentecostals of Yorktown, so it's a church vehicle for traversing people. And it's not a commercial vehicle, it's a 12-seater.
Actually, it is a commercial vehicle under our code.
On the cover.
So
Do we have
if
anything that
it
shows
was,
the
if it was being
driveway?
stored there,
not being stored.
it would need a permit, but it's not being stored there. What you're saying?
I'm just saying, like, I don't see anything that shows the driveway on this on the plan. It's a
He
regular
was there.
survey.
It was a fairly large driveway. I don't have a photo.
Yeah, I was there. There's a survey.
Survey.
Yeah, I'm looking for the driveway. It's right here. It's here and it's wide. I mean, it's got to be self-contained.
5 spaces and 3 cars, and he's saying there's going to be 3 cars there.
Yeah, you're
for the
allowed
3, you know,
But you
One
only,
and a half per unit.
yeah,
That's the requirement.
so it all needs is 3.
yeah. Yeah, if it meets the requirement.
No, but that's true. But since we did receive testimony about the potential for traffic dangers, and even if something met the requirement, if it was causing accidents or people couldn't fit, we do consider that.
Except
and-
they're not allowed to park on the street anyway, so.
Well, we can't assume it before the permit's really
Correct.
been granted, but
Right.
for the future, that's one of our main considerations for an existing accessory. If you park the van there repeatedly and too many cars and can't fit in the driveway, that's one of the main sticking points on renewals. So I would be cautious there to make sure you don't,
Yeah, if it's granted, you just got to be careful with the parking. That it has to be self-contained.
Sure.
You can't bleed out onto the street.
I mean, in more so than a typical house, because everybody would have guests over, whatnot. That's not the
And yeah,
issue.
people have guests over all the time, and they park on the street when they have to.
Yeah.
It just can't be a permanent thing.
Sure. That makes sense.
Any other comments? Anybody else on the board?
So just the square footage and all this, everything
There's
complies.
no objection
yeah.
from the building department. Okay, based upon testimony we heard, I don't see a reason under the statute, at least, why we shouldn't grant the application. So I would move to grant the application for a special use permit to convert the existing garage into an accessory apartment for, with the permit being for a period of 3 years, as the usual term. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Purpura? Application for special use permit for a new accessory apartment at 3609 Flanders Drive. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. You just
My
pulled the
name's
file.
Joseph Trombetta. I'm with Architectural Visions. I'm also representing Paul Papura today. So the client's requesting a special use permit so that he can have family. He has family coming from down south. They're moving back up, and they just need he needs the apartment for them. We added a bathroom and a kitchen, but other than that, the floor plan remains relatively unchanged.
We have a memo from the building department dated July 21st. We have no objection.
So it's not in the garage, the apartment. I saw there was
No, it's in the basement.
Basement.
It's conversion from in the basement.
And where's the entrance?
The entrance is on the left side there, that door right there, top left.
It's not on this one.
It's on the side of the house.
Yes.
And how much parking do you have in the driveway?
Can fit 6 cars.
So if you have cars in the garage, can the cars in the garage get out if there's somebody on the driveway?
You could put 4 enclosed
You gotta
cars.
give us your name first before you can't speak without telling us who you are.
Paul Papora. You can put 4, I have a 2-car garage, so 2 cars enclosed, plus enclosed tent and underneath the deck. It's all enclosed and it's all blacktopped. And
Yeah, my concern is though is if someone's parked in the garage in that area and somebody else is parked on the driveway more towards Flanders Drive, can you get out the driveway from around that car?
1 car in front, yes.
Okay. It's wide enough to do that?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So I'm just looking at the plan. It looks like it's more than 800 square feet. It's 30 by 38.
Yeah, but there's no application for...
I know, but it's the 30%. I gave you a little number.
Yeah, I have it right here.
To the outside.
That sticky thing that fell off. I
Sticky
think.
thing. Okay. Let's see what that is.
First floor is 30 by 38 to the outside.
And there's a 30% rule that building.
From the architect, do you know how big the square footage of the apartment is?
It's 24 by 38. We have the original floor plan as well.
Yeah, I'm looking. The house itself is 30.
May I bring the original floor plan up to you?
Sure. That's on that side.
You tell this to Tom and Bassett.
Okay.
Bottom.
So, the mechanical room for the house, is that closed off from the apartment, that only the house can access it? Because that would be a deduction from the square footage.
No, that's not closed off.
So the apartment is 988 or something you just said.
Let me just see what section we have.
There is like a boiler for the home inside of it. Not really what I would consider part of the apartment.
Probably is not part of the.
Yeah, I mean physically you can access it, but it's
still not part of the apartment, I wouldn't think. The only other thing that we have, and I'm looking for the section. This.
Okay, so, looking at section 300-38B5 under floor area, the usable floor area of the accessory unit shall have a minimum of 400 square feet and maximum of 800 square feet, except that the area of the accessory unit shall not exceed 33% of the usable floor area of the main building.
well, I don't think it's exceeding a third of the main building because
Right.
it's
Yeah,
a
no,
three-story.
it's
Right.
But you have a staircase and a mechanical room, which could be considered not part of the apartment that's inside this.
Right, so it's falling underneath the 33%.
Yeah, it's okay with that. It's just more than 800.
Right.
Yeah. it's 9-something. But then if there's a mechanical room and a staircase in that 900, it might,
You may very well be below both at that point.
right. So the staircase, is there a door on that? Like, the staircase is not part of the apartment, I would think, right?
Now, Steve, you want to step up?
Good evening, everybody, again. Steve Frietta. I was looking at the laundry room. This is not a spot where somebody can live. It's just it's a room. It's a laundry room. So if you take that out, you're about 635 square feet. So I did look at that part of it, and that's what I came up with.
That's fine.
And that's why I let it go forward
I
without
guess,
going for the
yeah.
variance.
It's not,
For
sometimes
square
people
footage.
would put
Yeah.
like a bold
Is the
line
laundry
that
room-
said,
is the laundry room going to be shared with the other, with you, essentially? Okay, so it's not really
well, the only way
divorced
to, yeah.
from the balance of from the house itself. It's all going to be communally used.
But the only way through to get to it is through the kitchen and the accessory apartment. So it's a little
Yeah, I'm not.
different than,
That's their issue.
well, normally the apartment, I don't know. We don't really see it like this too often, I guess, with the square footage. I would say that one argument would be to count anything that's in this that's only accessible through the apartment as the apartment.
Well, it's not a living space. If there was a garage as part of the apartment, it's not living space either.
Well, laundry rooms are not a garage. It is
It's also
living
not living
space.
space. It's not living space. I'm sure you could find somebody who wanted to live there, probably, but it's not living space.
It is in your house.
These days, you can find
When you
anybody
sell
who
your
wants to
house,
live
you'll
anywhere.
take that square footage of your laundry room off and say it's only so-and-so square feet, because that doesn't count.
Anybody in the audience have a comment on the application? Okay. Based on what we've heard, I would move that we grant the application for the creation of a special an accessory apartment and grant the permit for a period of 3 years. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank
No
you.
living in the laundry room.
Created a new way to list your house.
Marsaki? Sochi. Application for special use permit for a farm as per section 300-45 at 1225 White Hill Road, and also application for accessory structure without a principal structure, which is the farm stand. Good evening.
Evening.
Your names to the record, please.
Ken Marsoci.
Myra Marsoci.
Okay, you want to run us through your application, please?
Sure. We're applying first for the zoning special permit because with the farm there comes other permitted uses, I guess, that might negate the building permit, as we understand. You guys have been there to visit. We're a flower farm, and I'm not sure what
So,
more
well,
we
so
would
we're
need to
applying for
say.
a special use permit for farm operation in a residential zone, primarily. And
how much property is there?
It's 7.25 acres. By the code section 345 that allows use, permitted use of farms, greenhouses, nurseries, I feel or believe we meet the requirements of the total acreage and the setbacks required from the property lines to build the structures that we want to have, and the overall square footage of the structures falls well within the permitted amount. The other application is for variance for the shed, which is basically a...
Well, if we grant the farm, you don't need anything for the shed.
Right,
It's a
right.
farm
That's
stand.
what I was going to get to. It was because there's no primary structure on the property. A shed's considered a
Because
secondary.
if on a farm, if you're a farm, you're allowed to have a farm stand.
Under 500 square feet, which this is.
So we won't call it a shed, we'll call it a farmstead.
Right.
That's what it is.
Okay, we have several memos. One is from the Planning Board dated July 26th. The board has no planning objections to the special use permit or the variance requested, as there is adequate access and parking provided off of Whitehill. Memo from the Conservation Board dated July 22nd. The Conservation Board requests the applicant to submit a wetland report and a tree removal plan. The board would like to review those before giving recommendations. As soon as the applicant has those documents ready, we ask they reach out to be placed back on the agenda to further discuss. We have a memo from Abaca dated July 13th. The board feels that the proposed shed seems fitting for the proposed farm use in the area. The board feels that it is refreshing to see an establishment of a relatively unique nature being brought forth that is both forward-thinking and reflective of the historical nature of farming in this area and our town. They don't object either. And a memo from the building department. They have no objections.
We've also spoken about the variance.
Yeah, well, he's talking about the, well, the building department doesn't talk about the variance. Just they need a building permit for the structure.
Yeah, they basically have said that they don't need the variance.
Yeah. Right. So basically what was being told is that the Conservation Board wants additional items supplied.
Right.
Have you prepared any of that yet?
I have sent them an email with the wetlands study that I had done and information from USDA. So I've been doing a lot of proactive work with the wetlands, knowing it was obviously there when we were looking at the property. So I had a survey done when we were in contract for the property and done by a certified surveyor for wetlands. His findings were approved. It's a state-regulated wetlands. His findings were approved by the DEC. We've registered with the Farm Service Agency as a farm, and what that does is get the USDA to come out and verify, again, his findings. And
So that's all in the process of.
Right.
And then just in regards to what the Conservation Board wants to know about tree clearing, that's in the future, and it's not immediate by any
Right.
means. So we were hoping that it could go forward knowing that we're not near the wetlands part, there's no tree clearing.
Well, they're asking not only for the tree removal plan, but also a wetlands report, which they have to verify for us.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure. So if it's pending something or, that kind of thing. So you can see the dotted line, and this is the Yorktown map. And certainly, that could be a little up, a little bit down according to our wetlands map. But where the structure is well off. And
The problem we have is that we specifically sent it to the Conservation Board for their
Yeah.
input, and they're telling
Yeah.
us they want to have input, but not yet. We're hard pressed to do an end run around it.
Gotcha.
Because they may say something that they want something additional after they see the report. They may want to make specific recommendations to
Right.
us to put in our decision.
Okay.
And I don't want to make any decision that says it's subject to anything the Conservation Board has to say, because you may not like what they have to say for some reason. You
Right.
want a chance to rebut it or something. So,
Okay.
Anybody in the audience have a comment on the application? No? Okay.
So right now, you're not clearing any trees, and what?
No, and
Are you
like Myra said,
doing
what-
any growing or anything there? Or
Yes.
We're growing.
Yes.
I was over there, but I couldn't. So you don't really need to clear more to do your operation.
No.
Right. Not at
That's
this
really
time.
what I was getting at.
No, that's all open field and was when we purchased it.
And what was here before? Just
It was a community garden.
It was part of the church that's next door.
okay.
Yeah, and
Right.
before that, it was a ball field. And so, one of the remarkably rare things is to find land that hasn't been stripped of the topsoil. And so, as organic farmers, that was pretty key to us. But not only that, we're preserving that. And
So when it was the community garden, was it part of the church's property, or they would have probably
It was
needed
part of the church's property. It was subdivided a long
Subdivided.
time ago. The church was sold along with their pastor house. I'm not sure what year that was. And the community garden had been there for about 7 years, I think.
So they would have, in theory, probably needed to get this permit anyway.
Well, they probably didn't want to be, they weren't looking to
the
be
church.
declared a farm because the
Yeah.
church owned it already, so they're pretty much exempt from everything anyway.
Yeah.
We did notice there was a special use written on the deed for a gathering, so I assumed that was like way back when the church was
Something to do with the
doing
church.
ball
Yeah.
field stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
So what we'll do is I'm going to move that we adjourn the application to a September meeting so we have input from the Conservation Board.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And can I
Okay.
just ask, so we'll come back in person for that meeting in
For the
September?
meeting in September, yes. And hopefully we'll have some more information. You will have some more information.
Right,
from
right.
The Conservation
Yeah,
Board. I would expect that by the September meeting, you probably should have had a dialogue with them and come to some kind of, hopefully, an agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I think, is it Kim? Is that the?
Yeah, we were
I
waiting
think she's on
for them
vacation
to.
this
Okay.
week,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Okay.
I sent her the information, but,
All right.
Just wait.
You have almost 2 months, so
yeah, I guess they meet next
I don't know what their
month?
schedule is.
I don't know what their schedule is.
Okay, so we'll just want to make sure we meet with them before we meet.
We're not here till the end of September, so
Yeah, you.
Okay,
hopefully plenty of time.
great.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Elijah, is that the right pronunciation? Yes. All right, there's 2 applications here. I'll do them both at the same time. Application to legalize 3 accessory apartments in a single-family home with an existing non-conforming cottage, making a total of 4 dwelling units in a single-family district. An application to allow 2 primary structures on a lot where one is permitted as per section 300-21C1A1, to allow a combined floor area of 3 accessory apartments of 1,835 square feet where 800 square feet of accessory apartment is permitted, and to allow usage of property that is not owner-occupied as per section 300-38B8, and to allow 4 accessory apartments where 1 is permitted in an R140 zone, both at 1658 Amazon Road. Good evening.
Good evening.
Your names for the record, please?
Alex Alezzi.
Here, you got the mailings and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Everything's confirmed.
Why don't you run through us what your applications are?
Sure. So when we originally purchased the property, unfortunately, it was the week COVID hit.
What was the date you purchased it? Around.
Yeah, March 2020.
Okay.
Literally, I think the week COVID hit. Upon our due diligence, I think it's important to note the fact that we realized that there was a recording issue with the property in terms of how it was recorded. It's an oversized lot, I think, for the neighborhood.
What's the size of the lot?
It's almost an acre and a half. It's a corner lot. And there's, some very unique characteristics about the property. I actually am considering calling it Amazon Gardens because it's a beautiful corner lot, but something to recognize is that it has 3 driveways. One on Amazon Road and the adjacent road, I can't pronounce it properly, Marquis?
Aqua?
Makwa, I'm sorry.
Sounds like there's a couple
That was a
of
tongue
people
twister.
that know the pronunciation.
And upon the recordings, when we reviewed the documents, it just seemed that there had been some recording issues with the property. And in the assessment card, it shows that there were and has been traditionally and historically a multi-unit structure there. There's 3 separate entrances for each unit within the main, what we call the main house. And then there's a separate structure, which is the cottage. I believe, considering the fact that there's lake rights to this property, that it was and has always been run as a multi-unit structure, where it may have been owner-occupied at one point by the previous owner, but historically there has always been a multi-unit structure at that property. There's 3 separate entrances. In addition, once again, there's 3 separate driveways.
Was the garage also a residence of some kind?
You know what? I got to tell you,
Because there was an eviction notice posted on it. when we were there.
it's kind of weird. So there's some plumbing lines there, but when
There
we
was no
acquired-
stack in the roof, so it couldn't have had a toilet, at least not one that
No,
worked.
no, there was none. Maybe a sink, but unless somebody could live there without, a shower, I don't think there was. But there is a separate structure, which is the garage.
When you purchased the property, was it vacant?
No, it wasn't. So the week COVID hit, there were 3 tenants. One vacated literally the day that we closed. So there were 3 tenants in the cottage and 2 other tenants in the other units. Unfortunately, the COVID wave affected us, and one of the tenants didn't pay rent for nearly an entire year, and the other tenant recently moved out, and so did the other tenant at the cottage. So right now, the property is completely vacant.
Where do you live?
Connecticut.
Okay. One of the main precepts of the accessory apartment law is it has to be owner-occupied.
Understood.
In the 20-some-odd years I've been on this board, we have never varied that rule.
Understood.
Because it's specifically there so the owner watches over the property.
Understood. So can I tell you something interesting? I actually purchased the property because my father was a building manager in the city. I purchased the property for him and my mother to move into so he could manage the property. So in terms of...
But he's not the owner.
But in terms of what? Like interest?
Owner-occupied.
Correct. So he is part owner. He is my father.
Name on the deed?
His name is not on the deed. It's under an LLC.
So an LLC owns the property?
Correct. And I'm 100% owner of the LLC. But the intention was for my father to live there with my mom, downsize the property.
Well, what you just said is opposite of what you just said. If you're 100% owner of the LLC, then he doesn't have an interest in the property.
Correct. But the intention is that my father would downsize and live in the cottage and manage the property.
But it's still not owner-occupied.
Understood.
Which one is the cottage? There's 3 buildings.
That's right.
So the garage is not the cottage. You're
No.
not talking about that. It's the one, the smaller of the
There are
buildings.
two buildings,
Yeah.
2 main buildings and the garage.
Yeah, right. So the
the-
cottage is
Big
the,
house back here.
The
Has 4 units in it.
cottage contained one dwelling unit when you bought it,
Correct.
and the other building, when you bought it, contained 2 dwelling units.
3. So there's 2 1-bedrooms and 1 2-bedroom apartment.
And when you bought the property, you're saying that they were occupied.
3 of the units by the time we closed.
And do you have any idea? Well, we'll get to that.
What certificates of occupancy are there for the structures?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What certificates of occupancy do the structures have?
So, upon our review, it was conflicting. I don't think that there was a C of O actually either registered or confirmed because the assessment card and the C of O actually read very differently.
They don't always match, but the
That's
CO
right.
is important.
That's right. So it read, I believe, as a single family, but it's not a single family because there's multiple structures on the
Correct.
property.
It just means that it wasn't legal.
What was the date of the certificate of occupancy? Do you know?
I believe it dated back into the 40s or 50s.
Steve, we have information on that? Why don't you come up? You should sit closer to the microphone, you know.
Hi, Steve.
No, I'm Steve Fayette again, Assistant Building Inspector. No, I don't have a CO on this property that I recall.
There's nothing on file?
There's nothing on file. They had some minor permits that were taken out over the years, something to rebuild
There's nothing. There's nothing in the records.
nothing that I could find in the records, and I looked at all our records as best as I could.
When were the buildings built, do you know?
I'm guessing they were built in the 40s.
Because
You know.
there are old building permits around.
No, I understand that, but as of to date, I couldn't find anything. If he has it, that'd be great.
Well, he's basically saying that he has a certificate of occupancy in his possession.
No, and that's one of the
You're
reasons why
saying
we're
that-
here.
You're saying that it was built.
What did your title report say when you bought the property about C of O's?
I don't believe that we had a certificate of occupancy for the property.
What was the thing that the document you were just talking about that said single-family dwelling?
It goes back to the assessment card.
Yeah. On the assessor's card,
Yeah.
there's mentioned they checked off this is a single-family house.
Right.
There is also a note at the bottom about the cottage, and there's a
Right. Said it
separate
was rented
property card for the cottage.
Okay.
Okay, that too was, I think, built around the same time. To be honest with you, by looking at both of them.
One of the things we're struggling with, besides the fact that it's supposed to be owner-occupied, or has to be owner-occupied, is this may not be a variance or a permit application at all, but a use variance.
Agreed.
Because you're not using the property the way it's intended to be used. It's not intended to be used for 5 dwelling units. It's intended to be used for 1 dwelling unit with possibly 1 accessory apartment. That's the law. So if you're going beyond that, it's no longer an area variance. It becomes a use variance. And I don't know if you understand what that means.
I'm sorry, I don't. I'm sorry.
What you're asking for basically is a special use permit for the apartment, but you're also asking for an area variance. And there are different criteria for an area variance versus a use variance. In order to get a use variance, which means basically you cannot use the property for any other use other than what you're asking to use it for. So you're asking for use variance. In order to prove that is extremely difficult because you have to be able to show us that you cannot use that property for anything else other than 5 dwelling units, which obviously is a tough road to hoe because you can use it as a single family home. So when I say it's a difficult application, it may not even be, like I said, it may not be an area variance and a permitting app. It may be a use variance altogether.
Quite frankly, I'm inclined not to believe it's an accessory apartment situation at all, only because of the fact that the accessory apartment legislation basically says an owner-occupied single-family dwelling with an accessory apartment. We're not talking about 5 units. We're not talking about multiple dwellings. We're not talking about multiple buildings. So I think the issue of trying to make this as if it's a variance from an accessory apartment regulation really is not the case here. It's not an accessory apartment. It doesn't even come close.
You're trying to make us turn a car into a bus.
Yeah. It doesn't even come close. So the issue of trying to establish variances from requirements in the accessory apartment law really don't work because this is not an accessory apartment situation.
It doesn't meet any of the criteria for an accessory apartment.
So the problem is then if it doesn't meet those requirements, then what we have to deal with here is a situation where you're asking for the permission to use, and I am going to underline the word use, a piece of property for something that's not permitted in the zone. And there's all sorts of legal issues that deal with use variances. And I have to tell you, it's not an easy obstacle to overcome. Okay?
Basically, you have to show it cannot be used for any other purpose other than what you're asking for.
So this is not going to be for you, it's not going to be an easy application.
Understood. So the recommendation is that we...
Well, you could comply to the accessory apartment law if you want to, right? I mean, that's an option.
No, well,
you have to take out everything that's there.
You have to be, the main building is owner occupied and the accessory apartment is not. You can't even have your father living in the accessory apartment. Like, it has to be the owner occupies the main building and a tenant or a
So which
relative
one is the
occupies.
accessory unit?
Well, right now that's the problem because you have one structure that's one dwelling and you have one structure that you're setting up for 4 dwellings. So which is the accessory? Which is the main structure?
You'd have to convert the main building to one single-family home and the cottage to an accessory apartment.
Correct. So on the assessment card,
structure.
With an apartment.
on the
in it.
assessment card, it's recorded that the main...
Doesn't matter what's on the card.
The assessor's card really just reflects what the assessors saw when they were out there.
It's not an
It does,
approval.
it does not approve, nor does it legalize what's out there. All
Understood.
they're doing is basically assessing, for the purposes of taxes, what's on the property. They don't get into, okay, the issue of whether it's supposed to be there or not.
So is it a consideration that maybe the actual recording may have been flawed, and the fact that the property historically has always been a multi-unit property?
Doesn't mean it's legal.
Yeah.
And that part I understand, but how do you legalize something that's always either has operated historically and there's no violations? I believe there's no violations. There's never been any
Existing
complaints.
non-conformance, but that's only
Well, see,
to a
we-
variance, right? I mean,
Well,
to a
non-conforming,
setback or something.
non-conforming in that situation would have to be something that existed prior to 1932.
1932.
Okay, that's the magic date when zoning was instituted in the town.
Understood.
And
Steve,
when,
well, Steve, let me ask you, why is it listed as non-conforming? What was the basis of that?
Well, it's not listed as, oh, I'm sorry. There's no listing of non-conforming.
But the application says non-conforming. So
Oh,
I'm
I'm
wondering
sorry.
where that language
Yeah,
comes from.
yeah. It's non-conforming for the multiple dwellings that are on on
Correct.
the
So
site.
it's not because it's a prior
It's
non-conforming
not a
use.
Correct.
It's just
pre-existing.
you have,
Yeah.
That's correct.
There has been no establishment that the thing existed prior to zoning in 1932.
No,
We don't even know if the buildings were there in 1932.
we don't.
And we cannot find records.
No, and I looked, and I'll continue searching.
Please.
I will continue searching, but I did look through, multiple files. Now, I'll just keep searching and see what else I can find on the property.
Okay.
But there's nothing except for some, like I said, for some little permits here and there over the years.
After,
I mean, the earliest date I see
Absolutely.
on the assessor's card is 1964.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, it's checked off as one family.
yeah. Is the property sewered?
Actually, we have the rights to connect to the sewer, but there's actually two septic tanks. I believe they're both either 1,500, 1,300 tanks.
Okay.
So you have three driveways, three separate entrances for the main house. You have two septic tanks. Again, I think it might be one of those
Is there a
situations
Board of
where,
Health permit for the tanks?
Excuse me?
Is there a Board of Health permit for the tanks?
for the septic tanks, honestly, I don't know how to answer that question.
Any information, Steve?
We have the record of any Board of Health approvals for the property.
Because the tanks, the size of the tanks, the number of tanks is based upon how many bedrooms you have.
Correct.
And there's two tanks, two
We
septic
don't know
tanks.
we don't know how that complies with the Board of Health rules.
Understood.
Yeah, is
Plus, we also don't know where they leach into
subdividing
it.
an option
If
on
it's
this
put in
property?
properly or what, without those approvals.
Well, what I do know is that we have and pay sewer taxes, of which we have never
People
connected.
pay sewer taxes all over town and don't have sewer.
Understood. But we haven't.
In Mohegan especially.
Understood.
Yeah, if you're in a district, you pay a district tax.
Understood. Understood.
What do you want to say?
Just throwing out things for you to investigate. Also, subdividing the property, something like that, right? Like,
I don't
you
think
could-
enough property to do
well, you
that.
have how many acres did you say it was?
It's almost an acre and a half. I believe it's 1.3.
I don't know if you
1.33.
right through one of them.
I don't know. That's I can't tell you that you can do that, but it's something for you to investigate. That would be compliant potentially, right? If you divided this into two lots.
The planning board has a memo dated July 26th. They want to do a site visit on the property
Yes.
prior. I don't know what they're going to come up with that we haven't addressed. I mean, you see what we're struggling with here and what you have to struggle with.
I know.
There's only one other application on the agenda, and I doubt all these people are here for that one application. So I'll ask now if anybody in the audience feels they want to make a comment at this point. If you could sum it up, I'd appreciate it. But you got to step up to the microphone.
Evening. Christopher Donahue, for the record.
And I just want to make a note before Mr. Donahue speaks. There are several letters and petitions in the file. I'm not going to read all of them, but they are part of the file and made part of the record.
Correct. Thank you for that. So that cancels out one of the things I was going to submit for the minutes. The second one, we have a complete list of petitions that we went around with in opposition for
Those sent
They're
in.
also in the file.
every single one. Okay.
They look like, I just took a glance at what you're
Okay, because I know there was a few signed today, and then I wasn't
Yeah,
sure. So
that's fine. You can submit them again if you want to make sure. That's fine.
Give it
Just
to
give
you.
it to him. Thank
you very much. So, just submitting that, I would like to start out. I would submit something else, and this was Mr. Alex. I don't know how to say pronounce your last name. I live on Makwa. That's how we pronounce it. And so he said he was unfamiliar with different problems that might have been been brought up with this property. But the original Zillow listing here, it said the owner will not be obtaining updated certificate of occupancy. Ideally suited for a cash investor. Purchaser can apply for prior to zoning letter. Non-conforming letter, so we could submit that to the record as well. That's what
We don't even know if it would qualify for a
Correct.
non-conforming letter.
So that's that was there. That was already listed, so it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't just
Well, one of the things with buying property is it's strictly buyer beware, which is why you have all title reports done before you buy it.
correct, correct. So a couple different things that I'm gonna talk about is he said there's multiple driveways, multiple different
Yeah, we've seen the
septic tanks. Okay, great. With that being said, these driveways might not even be legal that come out onto Makwa Place. That's the road I live on. So I know there's sometimes requirements for parking. I've clearly learned today that you have to have parking requirements. So if those
Driveways that exit onto a town road need a highway department permit.
Correct. Okay. So that would have to
So
go.
I don't know if there are any. I have
You
no
can
idea.
check and see if they have those if you want.
Understood. Okay. Everybody knows today's day and age is real estate's a great way to invest. That's no secret. There's also people from my neighborhood as well here in opposition. I'm going to add that to the record.
We usually get an audience, so
I'm going to go to page here. Let's see here. Page 78 on the dealio there. Mr. Alex put his address as 371 North Avenue, New Rochelle, New York. A quick Google search shows it comes up as Black Mountain Capital, which is a real estate financial firm. Don't want to get it confused.
Well, in any event, he stated he doesn't live there.
Correct. In a state, so everybody knows that you could build wealth with
I mean,
doing all
where
this
he
stuff.
lives is
It's irrelevant.
Doesn't matter as long
So,
as it's not on that property.
I would assume that he does this all over the place. This isn't his first rodeo. All the wealth that he would be gaining from this property would be leaving Yorktown. You guys know that, leaving the local community as well. So I was going to touch on character, like the other gentleman said, in opposition for the other one, but like you said, there's not.
Well,
a,
so the character.
This is not a
let me,
single accessory apartment.
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
So-
let me ask about that though, because you live there.
Correct.
I don't. At least what he's said to us, it's not really changing what's there. So, have you had issues in the past with the tenants, the apartments?
You're changing the character of the neighborhood. You have to see how long it's been there.
Correct. So I can't speak
Been
on
there
that.
for 50 years. It
I've
kinda
only
is the
been
character of the neighborhood.
correct. I can't speak on that. I've only been there since October of 2020. So, and since then, I mean, it's bushes overgrown.
so
this, that,
that's
you know.
what I mean.
I can't speak it out. Maybe somebody else would be able to.
You know,
but
Mohegan, as most people here probably know, started really as bungalow.
Bungalow town,
way
correct.
back when. So you had
Right.
clusters of homes. But over the years, for the most part, they've all been legalized in one way or another.
Correct.
This may be an outlier, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have to be legalized.
But it also doesn't mean it doesn't meet the character of the neighborhood, and that is actually pretty important.
Right.
Because it's not obvious that this, is misplaced in that neighborhood. Let's say. Like
Correct.
the driveways or the buildings, like
Though
that
the
doesn't.
structures may have been there, it doesn't mean they were meant to be for families
Right.
living in them.
Correct. And it's not legal today in
he's
the
not,
law.
He hasn't really been talking about changing the structures, rebuilding, building out, or any of that. So,
Correct.
that's something. Anyway,
You know, if he came in here saying the three structures, I want to keep the one as a garage, I want to keep the one as a one-family house, and the one that has 4 units, I'm going to convert it back to a one-family dwelling.
Right.
Then you may have a different argument. He may have a different argument.
Right.
But those buildings have been there so long, it doesn't really change the character if those buildings can get C of Os in and of themselves. But what he's asking for is why we're saying it doesn't meet accessory apartments in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Which is why it looks more like a use variance.
Right.
there's no means for us to really approve 3 apartments in one building.
4.
Yeah, 4.
Correct.
That's not an accessory apartment. It doesn't meet the definition within the code.
Correct.
So,
And
Anyway.
then one other question I had: if this gets shot down and he goes to operate this illegally, is there any sort of action we
you'd
could
be
take?
you'd be in violation. That's not us to do. That's the town that's doing any kind of violation. That's
Understood.
That's code enforcement.
Okay. Great. I think I'm all done there. Appreciate your time.
Sure.
Thank you. Good luck.
Anyone else? Just come on up. Feel free. You can respond.
Can I just mention the fact that
Sure.
I was a Mahopac resident for 20 plus years,
Okay.
and I'm not investing in Yorktown or any other community unless I'm aware of the community. I also run and operate a business in Westchester. Again, I think our intention the entire time was just to improve what's there. Unfortunately, it's been in disrepair for and deprived for many, many years. So again, there's no additions, there's no additional floors, there's no additional extensions. It's essentially a cosmetic renovation to improve what's been existing for as long as it's been existing.
But it hasn't been legal as far as we know.
Understood. So the intention again was to
And what
legalize what's been
and,
there.
And
That's
the problem you're going to run into is the legality to get it there.
Understood.
We're not saying you have ill intentions. We're just saying that they may be misplaced or misguided.
Correct. Again, so with 3 separate driveways and 3 separate entrances, and so the main structure has 3 units, and then once again the separate cottage is a 4th unit. So
There were 4 meters on one building.
correct. So the other thing is that we also were approved for 4 meters, which is for the 3 units as well as the landlord
You were approved by
building department.
So the 4 meters, though, are just for the.
For the 3 units and for the landlord meter, and the cottage has this. I'm sorry, Steve. And the
So
cottage has
there's 4 dwelling units in the main building right now.
3.
But there's 4 meters on that building.
4 meters. The
For like the lights or the driveway. or
the common areas and the 3 units, and the cottage has its own separate meter. Again, we're just simply
I understand.
improving.
we got to get into the legalities.
Understood.
We're not talking about improvements.
We're not talking about your intentions.
We're not
It's just-
talking about whether you're
And we don't consider where you live other than how it applies to this specific law, which
And we
is
have
owner
nothing against
occupied.
investment property. It's
Yeah.
just you got to do it the right way.
Correct.
And
It's
you're
just-
going to be, like I said, there's going to be some legal issues here.
Understood.
And you may have to, at some point, discuss that with somebody.
Understood. I understand.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm concerned, and my
Give
name
us
is
your name
sure.
first.
Oh, my name is Joseph Augusto Sr. I live on Uncle Street in Mohegan Lake, right around the corner from Amazon Road. My concern is that this is an absentee landlord,
Right.
and which, like was said before, the property will not be overseen properly.
But
because
that's
of
one of
all-
the reasons why it doesn't comply with accessory apartment.
and also, by granting to legalize another unit, can start a precedent in other properties to do the same thing, and argue that if you allowed it here, it could be.
Well, that's why
Yeah.
I said earlier, the first thing I said was in the 20-some-odd years I've been on the board, we have never varied the owner-occupied rule, because that's exactly what it would do, is people be doing that all over town, saying, oh, we don't have to be owner-occupied anymore,
Or 3 apartments in one house.
which is totally against the accessory apartment law.
We would be creating, like you said, a precedent.
We'd be creating a new accessory apartment law, basically, which is not what we do.
So I feel that unless this is correct, that done the right way, we should reject this. The town board should reject it. That's my opinion.
And that's the reason why I'm saying it's a use variance, not an accessory apartment. Because there's no way we could grant it as an accessory apartment. It just doesn't
Yeah,
apply.
I think we can stop talking about accessory apartments.
So there are other options for the applicant that we've kind of brought up. So we're not necessarily, and we have a memo outstanding from the planning department. So we'll have to discuss whether we're closing this right now or adjourning it or
Well,
something.
I have an idea of what I'm thinking of, but I want to see if anybody else. Are you finished or not?
Yes,
I
I'm
don't want to
finished.
stop you if anything else is said.
Thank you very much.
Come on up.
Hi, I'm Dawn Chapa. I live on Winona Trail, and I actually run the beautiful Amazon Park for 13 years. 25-year resident. I think the property is beautiful, okay? But it has been illegally rented for years. I know he only had them in there for a short while. Sadly enough, walking my dogs around the neighborhood, I cannot tell you how many times the police have been called. Now, we have neighbors that are here that live right across the street, and they would be able to confirm that. There was some shady stuff going on there, domestic violence, and it was in more than one or
that's
two
all
of the
emptied
units.
out now.
I'm
I know
sorry.
the place
I
is
know
still-
they're
the
emptied
place is
out,
still
but
overgrown.
it can happen again.
Oh, sure,
So,
but
of
this-
course,
yeah.
if you have, I personally, if I bought the property and had the money to renovate, I would gut it, make it a beautiful home, get the cottage, make it accessory apartment, and have a beautiful, like, kind of estate type area. It is a beautiful area. It's a very quiet neighborhood, and we really just want to keep it that way. And so that's all I want to say. I didn't want to come up and talk, but you said you didn't know the history of the renters prior, and there was shady stuff going on there, and I don't want to, really like pinpoint, because I don't. We wanted to see if we could find out how many times the police had went there, but everything gets thrown so fast, and we had a heat wave.
Right.
So I don't know if that's something would be
No, I think that
prevalent.
what you're saying is quite important. I mean, we don't really, as we discussed, have a great means to even kind of approve 3 apartments in one single-family home, but that is a prime example of why the law didn't allow it.
Right.
And
Because-
why it's
because
supposed to be
of that.
owner-occupied.
Right. And I mean, I know that it ran illegal for years. I didn't live on that block. And also the block was of an older population that were, I wouldn't like say homebound, but kind of like, not where they're out and about in their yards and hear things. Now we have a very big younger population of families that have moved in the last maybe 7, 8, 9 years, and definitely, as we know, since COVID. And it's a very family orientated. We have Amazon Park. It's a beautiful park. Matt Slater was just there from Mohegan Lake, and we had 125 people at our park for the lake event. And so I just, I know he won't get it, but if it had gone through and 4 renters went in there, and now those 4 renters are going to be part of our park, I don't feel that would be fair to our community. So I just really wanted to say what I noticed, and I live 2 blocks away from there, so I won't hear it every night like a couple of these people who live right across the street, So we're not trying to bully up on them, we're just trying to say that to put 4 renters in there, which we know is illegal and wouldn't get passed anyway. But my advice would be, gut the house, make it gorgeous, get a variance for the cottage, win-win, sell it now, and make a profit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on up.
It's got a nice ring to it, though.
We got some buyers here already.
A fan club. I had no idea.
Ken Belfer from 1770 Amazon Road. I was involved in 2 of the prior sets of changes to the accessory apartment law, so I'm quite familiar with it, and it sounds like from the comments what I'm going to say is unnecessary, so I'll just say it very quickly, and I'm just going to quote from the law. Section A, it is the intent that neighborhoods zoned as single-family primarily maintain their single-family character. The adoption of this section will further the town's goal to provide affordable rental housing in Yorktown without thereby changing the low-density, predominantly single-family character of the town. Section B1, no accessory dwelling units are allowed in accessory buildings in the R110, R120, and R140 zone. So that's addressing the accessory building issue. And B8, ownership, 1 dwelling unit must be owner-occupied, which must be the larger unit. And 9, number of accessory dwelling units per lot. There shall be no more than 1 accessory apartment, nor a total of 2 dwelling units permitted per lot. So I think the accessory apartment law should be very clear here. I didn't necessarily agree with all these things. I got some of the changes I wanted at the times that we revisited it, but this is what it is.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Anybody else?
What I'm going to, sir, oh, you want to speak?
Yes.
Come on
he
up.
does.
You almost missed out.
How you doing? Good. Chris Long, 1680 Mogul Drive. 61 years. I've lived on that corner for 35 of those 61 years. I'm probably the guy that's called the police more than anybody. My day starts at 3 a.m. every day. That's when I start work. The yelling, the things, the shenanigans that went on, the drug deals, and again, nothing against the two people that have bought the property, but just bringing it back to the family neighborhood aspect that most of these people are here for. I raised 4 kids. I now have 10 grandkids that play on that corner. I know you guys have visited my property many times for zoning, to do things as we made our house from a little bungalow that it was to what it is today. Where I'm going with this, Amazon Speedway is out of control. The more people that we add to that corner, which is a death trap now, the town so graciously put that stop sign in down at the corner. Now that Camp Nabby's open in the summertime, it's insane. They don't stop. Somebody's going to get killed. We add more people into that neighborhood. It's just not made for it. Our roads on that side of Mohegan Lake are not made for that many people. So to keep it a house and an accessory apartment, no problem.
Well, we don't even know if the septic's made for that many people.
Right. So 3 or 4 more families in that neighborhood, it's going to be tough. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I guess I could say just one thing.
Well, right ahead. You can even make it 2 things.
My name's Darren. I live across the street from, and again, no offense to you guys, I've been there 12 years, my wife and kids. It's been a disaster. I don't know exactly whether you've called the police more than me. We'll talk about that later. I was going to speak to Chief Noble about that, but we're trying to keep things level. The one thing I would like to mention that hasn't been brought up was that I'm not sure where the 3rd driveway is, but the one on Amazon Road needs to go. It's right at the crest of the hill. They built that big concrete block mailbox thing a couple of years ago.
There's one that feeds right into the what used to be the garage.
Which was not a garage, it was a dwelling.
Well,
whether it had a toilet or a shower or anything,
there's a
and
garage
again, not your
there's
problem.
a garage door on down that no car could fit through anyway. So.
Well, no, there were people living in there.
Well, there was, I said there was an eviction notice on it.
Yeah.
There's one driveway that goes into that. There was another one around the corner, that kind of a longer one that feeds into the property. I think bordered with another property.
The newer one.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
the one at 1658 with those concrete blocks that this gentleman and woman behind me did not install is a disaster. The horn blowing from the speeding people coming down Amazon, anyone going in or out of that driveway. Makwa's bad enough. We call it the horns of Makwa are blowing tonight. But the driveway itself, I don't know where the actual driveway is supposed to be for the property.
There's one that looks like there's a well cap right next to it.
All right, I don't know if it's on Amazon or Makwa.
It's on Makwa, I think.
Okay, because the Amazon one is a disaster. And gentleman that spoke first, my wife and my wife has a business locally. We tried to buy the property just to get rid of the people that were there. We were willing to spend every dime we had to put that back, that we would go into there as a single family and possibly rent out and sell the house that we lived in just to get rid of that corner, what was going on. I'm not saying that the improvements wouldn't change that, but I just feel it's too many people.
I understand.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, what I was going to suggest to the applicant is you've heard all that's gone on tonight. Now, we have to adjourn anyway because the planning board wants input, but the suggestion I would make to you is, given all that you've heard, is you may want to talk to a semi-professional on this issue to find out where you stand on it and what you want to do going forward.
Okay.
If you want to maintain the application or move to another application or give it up altogether, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you really should do some serious consideration with your application, given what you heard tonight. So I'm going to move that we adjourn this to the September meeting, and hopefully we'll have input from the planning board then, and you may have some additional input.
I appreciate it.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Yankopoulos, could we please just keep we keep the noise down going out, the meeting is still going on, could we just keep low level?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I used to have a gavel, now I gotta use my own gavel. Howie must have taken it with him. This is Yankopoulos, application addition with a side yard setback of 4 feet where 30 is required at 1370 Baptist Church Road. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm Bill Spade.
And
that's my-
Keiko Spade.
We are the architects for Mr. Yankopoulos for this property.
Okay. Why don't you run us through it?
So we have drawings and the like. Well, you've got it up there. So we need a larger scale. It's there. This is a property that.
I'm sorry. Yes, mailings are yes.
It's a existing property with an existing stone cottage on it, one-story stone cottage.
We did a variance on there once before, didn't we?
You know, honestly, I don't know that.
I remember being there once before, but I don't remember what the variance was for.
Okay. So Mr. Yankopoulos bought the property about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm not aware that he did anything. It may be the prior owner.
Steve, was there anything else? You know, I remember being there for something else. We were at the house all the way down the end.
Yeah.
I can find out though if you're.
I'm just curious. I think we've been to that particular house.
Yeah.
Sure, if you can.
I know you visited.
Steve.
Beyond this one.
No, I know.
Beyond
Yeah, but-
Laserfish.
I think we're specifically
on
at
Laserfish.
this house.
Okay.
Parcel.
Go ahead. You keep going.
Okay, good. It's a oddly configured lot. As you see from the diagram, the existing cottage is within 4 feet in the front right corner, 4.6 feet of the right side property line. Presumption, I think it was in the 70s even, that these lots were subdivided. I believe there's a white farmhouse to the left of the stone cottage.
Yeah, the stone wall. It looks like there was like a well right beyond it.
Correct. Right.
It was probably shared property
Right.
at one point.
I think it was all one lot and then subdivided. Why they made such an odd configuration for this particular lot, but
Have you seen a
created.
map of Yorktown lately?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this non-conforming condition was created when the subdivision was created. So the stone cottage is 4.6 feet front right corner from that lot line. What we're proposing is
If I'm
to
correct, beyond that stone wall, pardon me for the interruption, there's really
Sure.
nothing for quite a distance.
Correct. Exactly.
You're just near the property line.
Right. So as you see from the diagram, we're proposing to do an addition on the rear of the structure to enlarge a kitchen and.
Now, just to clarify again, when you say rear, when you're on the driveway, it's kind of more to the side than it is the rear, but it's the rear of the house.
All right. So the driveway that continues to the right of the house goes to that rear house.
Right.
There's a circular driveway in front of the cottage, and that's the driveway that
Is the just from being out there? There's
Yeah.
a stone patio.
Yes.
Is that
Are
where
you
it's
gonna-
going?
Is that where it's going to go?
That's
You're
correct.
gonna-
Right.
you're
That's
gonna
the
cover-
rear.
You're going to cover the stone.
That's what I'm
patio.
saying. When you're looking at the house and the driveway, it's kind of to the right
Yeah.
side.
I have pictures. Do you want to see?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Pictures. So then there's 3 separate ones. That's the front.
That's where you're
the
gonna-
rear.
right over
That's
here.
Exactly where that addition's going to
Yeah.
go on that.
Okay.
That patio.
And this is the property line. This stone over here.
Not the property line. No.
Keep on going
No.
still.
I know there's a couple of walls there.
It's on the side.
It's like
on the side.
Okay, over
the
here.
property,
Yeah.
the setback line runs right through the middle of it.
This is the
Yeah.
back area that you're looking
There's
at.
the back area.
But it's a property.
Property
Keep
line.
on
It's on
going.
the
Correct.
right side.
This,
That's
that's
right
the-
side.
right.
This side is where
This
that,
side.
Yeah, that road is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
where the
So it's
driveway
not
is.
along
something with
here.
that building.
It's along here.
Correct.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's where the over here where the well is.
Right.
Yeah.
But is this an accessory structure for a house?
No.
This is the main.
That's the main house.
There's a whole bunch of homes there that look like it was all part of one property at one time.
Oh,
They were all
I'm
cut.
sorry.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Okay.
Thank
Did you want these? You want to put these in the file?
You can keep it in the file.
Thank you.
So again, proposing that addition 12 feet to the rear across the back of the structure. We're also going to raise the roof. Presently, it's a one-story structure. There's a tiny little loft space, storage space above one of the bedrooms. And the owner wanted to create a full-height loft area, you might call it a second floor, that will overlook the main.
Do you have an as-built drawing?
Do and plan.
Yeah.
It's basically.
Oh, plans are here, sorry. So it's approximately a 40-foot wide by 27-foot deep structure, and then sorry. That's the existing floor plan.
Right.
So there's a central living room, ceiling goes cathedral ceiling up to the underside of the roof. There's a bedroom on the right and a bedroom on the left. Bathrooms for each of those bedrooms, and then the tiny little kitchen in the rear with a kind of den space there. And this is that existing patio where we're doing the addition.
Right. Okay.
It will remain a two-bedroom building, house. And again, it is the principal residence for the property.
We have a memo from the building department dated July 21st. They show no violations and no objections. Anybody in the audience have a comment? I guess not. Anything you want to add?
I do want to say one thing, and I mentioned this to Steve. The owner would like to... The
accessory apartment?
Yes, so, if you can just... 3 would be better. Sorry. You have a lot of accessory apartments. We're in town of Newcastle, and boy, I rarely hear accessory apartment applications there, and we are particular proponent.
There they have accessory estates.
Yes, right. Right. So no, we're happy for you that you have a good process for enabling them, and it's a good thing. No, so one thing is it's a slab on grade, and they have water infiltration issues regularly. So the owner wants to raise up the floor. So the idea is going to be retain the slab on grade, retain the existing exterior walls, build a new first floor, essentially 4 feet up from the existing slab on grade.
Is that all on the plans?
It shows on the plans, right? And it's just extending up the side walls. The grade will come up, so that building that you see on the drawings remains the same proposed building, just kind of raising everything up.
Yep.
The floor's higher, and the grade's higher, so the wall heights remain the same.
And then it will become similar to the street on that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now
like
it's
that driveway
down,
side.
so it's all the water comes down to the building.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change. Steve and I talked about it. Doesn't change anything in terms of the zoning variance or granting, because that's the side yard, and doesn't change the height, at the end. But just wanted to make sure that was clear in terms of what was being planned.
From what I heard, it's not going to change the character of this neighborhood. I mean, the house is pretty much in the middle of a very large piece of property, and it's not even seen from the main road. It's a private road altogether that it's on.
Correct.
I would move that we grant the application for an addition with a side yard setback of 4 feet where 30 is required. It's 1370 Baptist Church Road, with the usual stipulation this pertains to the requested variance, not the remainder of the property line, and that the addition be built in substantial conformity to the plan submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Have a good evening.
That's everything on here. I would move then that we adjourn to September. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night
Good night.
and happy zoning.